Hey everyone, it's Laura here from makingcardsisfun.com, and today I'm here with another Saturday Stamp Day carding video. Today I'm using the Dream Believer stamp set from W+9 along with the coordinating die cuts. So I'm just starting out with a standard size note card. It is cut out of some Nina White cardstock, and I'm going to be using the little scattered dots or the scattered dots stamp from the stamp set. I'm going to be doing a fun technique called second generation stamping. First, I'm using fresh peach ink from Hero Arts. Just going to ink up my stamp, and then I'm going to stamp it again without re-inking it. So it's just a fun technique that I learned from Jennifer McGuire. So now I'm just doing the same using lemon yellow ink from Hero Arts. Also works great with this color since it's such a bright color. Then I'm using a Studio Calico ink. This color is called Glass Slipper, and I discovered that these inks work really great for this technique, except the one that I'm using right now. This is Glass Slipper, and it's kind of a light ink, so I think you would be better if you would use like Tide Pool ink from Hero Arts or something like that. So now I'm using Lime Right ink from Studio Calico, and this color works really great for this technique. Okay, so now I'm going to use the coordinating die cuts from the stamp set to die cut the main piece of the dream catcher and then 3 feathers. Just die cut these out of some white cardstock. Now I'm going to stamp that main piece of the dream catcher. Going to heat emboss those pieces using Versamark ink and the embossing powder that I'm going to be using. It's called Metallic Platinum Embossing Powder from Wow. So I'm just going to stamp the circle part and then also the inside part. It's kind of a star-shaped piece. So now I'm just sprinkling that embossing powder on there, and I'm using a cupcake wrapper to, just as like a little funnel so I can put the embossing powder into the jar easily. So now I'm going to heat emboss that embossing powder, heat set that embossing powder using my heat tool. And I'm going to stamp a sentiment in the center of that dream catcher. Using the Dream Big greeting from the Dream Believer stamp set, I'm going to stamp that greeting using fresh peach ink. So now it's time to stamp those feathers. I'm going to use Glass Slipper ink from Studio Calico to stamp the solid piece of that feather. And then I'm going to use Tide Pool ink from Hero Arts to stamp the little details into this feather. So I'm just going to do that for the 3 feathers, not showing this all on camera. So there you go, I stamped all of these feathers, and now I'm going to stamp the little details. So these are like little beads and that you can use for these feathers. So I'm using lemon yellow ink from Hero Arts for this one. I will be using the same inks as I used for the background. And then I'm going to stamp like this little the string piece that holds the little beads, and I'm only going to ink up the top piece of that stamp, so it's like this little knot, I think it's supposed to be, that holds the beads. And I'm going to stamp that using Versamark ink, and I'm going to sprinkle that using the same Metallic Platinum embossing powder from Wow. There we go. And then I'm just going to use this bigger stamp to stamp all of these beads. So I'm just inking up each little bead separately instead of inking up the whole stamp. So I'm using Glass Slipper, Lemon Yellow, and Fresh Peach ink from Studio Calico and Hero Arts. And I'm also using Lime Right ink from Studio Calico. There we go. So I just finished stamping those feathers, and I'm going to heat emboss that little bead. So now I'm going to assemble the card together, and I'm going to use foam adhesive to adhere that dream catcher onto my card. By the way, I started out with a standard size card, but I cut that piece to 4" by 5¼ and I will be adhering this onto a note card later in the video. So now I'm going to pick out a pattern paper from the Everyday Collection paper pad from Avriel, and I decided to go with a yellow piece of pattern paper, and I'm going to cut that to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 so it fits a standard size note card. So I'm using my Fiskars Sure Cut for that. Going to adhere that onto the card using my Tombow Mono adhesive. And then after I adhere that, I'm going to adhere the main piece onto the card using foam adhesive. So I'm just using some foam squares, and there we go. Okay, and I'm just going to finish off my card using some Pretty Pink Posh sequins because I just love to do that. I am using the 4mm and 6mm sparkling clear sequins from Pretty Pink Posh, and I'm using my EK Success tweezers and glossy accents to do that. So that's it for this week's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back next week. Bye!